So Janine has come out from Perth to do our workshops starting tomorrow. And Janine is a world-renowned textile artist who loves thread painting, as she refers to it, scribbling with thread. So she likes to work with scenes of imagery and animals, and she's inspired by her travels, and oh my gosh, does this woman travel? In a yacht.
Oh, that was the last part. The clip over round the world yacht race.
Round the world yacht race. So from somebody who won't even step on a boat, for a good reason. I just can't even imagine doing a round the world yacht race out in the middle of the ocean with nothing except the steak. That's what I'd be thinking of. The sharks and the whales and whatever else is underneath. Yeah. So Janine's quilts are inspired by the photos that her husband takes while they travel. Her husband's a prolific photographer, takes thousands of photos. So Janine, I'm assuming you would curate those and work out the ones that you like the best and interprets them into thread. So thank you so much for coming over from Perth, and I'll hand over to you for your truck show. So I can help hold this.
Yeah. Hi. Where do I start? I'll start at the beginning sort of thing. So I'm actually a Kiwi. Sorry? I'll bring up the too close. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm actually a Kiwi. I grew up in New Zealand on 10 acres. Idyllic childhood sort of thing, horse riding, blah, blah, blah. But my sister is 15 years older than me, and she took off travelling around the world. And got back all these amazing letters and photos and stuff like that sort of thing. So for me it was always a matter of when I travelled, not if I travelled. And then by the time she came back, and her husband had a dress fabric shop. So I spent my school holidays working in the shop. So obviously if you're getting materials at cost, you learn how to sew sort of thing. And I would say I was tried all crafts, jack of all trade, master of none sort of thing. And then I took off travelling, and I met my husband on one of those overland flights through Africa, so we've got a common interest that we both love to travel. Our last trip was like 18 months overland, just travelling, sort of thing, from England back to Australia sort of thing. Carried 100 rolls of film, because back in the days it was film camera, and every photo was sort of like, you had 6 photos a day that you could take sort of thing, so photos were precious. And whereas now with digital cameras, you can imagine it's so easy, you just take thousands of photos. So I got back home, and all life responsibilities, mortgage, kids, all that sort of thing. So I was very involved with the primary school on the PNC, and we would do a big concert every couple of years, and even in those days not many mums sewed, so it would be like a couple of us would be making costumes for the whole school and designing them. So that's when I sort of got back into sewing a little bit. Then the kids went to high school, and it was like, I'm not going to be the mums that's sort of still going to the high school and things like that. So what am I going to do with my time? My mother-in-law gave me a mail order catalogue sort of thing. I flicked through when there was a book on art quilting sort of thing. And I thought, oh, that looks interesting, I'll give that a go. So I got that and copied one and made a quilt, and at that stage I had no idea that Quilters Guilds existed or anything else like that, and I sort of bought another quilt book and made another quilt sort of thing, was quite happily playing around, doing my own thing, nothing very exciting. So this was probably about 15 years ago. And then probably about 10 years ago, I actually Googled and found out that WACPA, WA Quilters Association, existed. And they had a Julie Patrick workshop at the time. So she was coming over and sort of doing painting skies and doing a workshop, and I thought, oh, that looked interesting, so I went along and joined that, did the workshop, and that's when I sort of joined the Contemporary Quilt Group. And about that time, a couple of them had done pixelated quilts. And we'd just come back from South America and gone and did the W Walk in Torrensdale Plain, and it was one of those magical days. You sort of walk up there, and it was sort of in a bit of cloud, and we sat on the rock, and slowly the clouds cleared, and it was this magnificent vista. And I was like, I've got to do a quilt to remember that. And so we had a spot in our formal lounge above the sofa, and I thought, yeah, that's a perfect spot for doing this photo of Torres del Paine. And obviously, husband likes to take photos, so he likes things to be very realistic. So I thought the only way to get it realistic was to do like 1-inch squares for the pixelation. And I am not a neat and meticulous person. That's why I did art quilting, because I'm the sort of person that my points are never going to match. You know, and I don't unpick things. I don't do things neat and meticulous. I don't do hand sewing. When I make clothes, they would sort of sit there waiting for the hem to be done, and Mum would insist that they be done by hand, and I was like, I'm not doing that sort of thing. And they'd sit there before I finally got round to doing it. So I hate hand sewing. I hate neat and meticulous. So I did this quilt with 1-inch squares. You know, the cheats way where you put it on the interfacing sort of thing and then stick it down and slow down, so they were accurate. And it was a pixelated quilt, and I don't think there's any rooms that you could get far enough back to actually recognise what it was. I haven't got a photo of it, but my husband, no, he was very disparaging, and we don't do political correctness in our house. It's sort of like, it's not going on the wall, throw it in the bin. It's like, I can't. There was so much work even doing that. But I had no idea how to save it. So it got stuck in the UFO pile. And then every couple of months, are you finishing that quilt? He doesn't understand UFOs and things like that. Snags. So we, after a couple of years, the local shop had Sophie Standing coming to do a workshop. And I had no idea who she was. Googled and saw her work was amazing, and I thought, that's what I need to finish this quilt. So I did her workshop, and then I sort of started doing it a little bit. But this is a big quilt. I'll show it to you in a sec. And I would do a little bit, and I was like, no, I just can't do it. It's just too big. I didn't have the mental capacity to actually finish it and do all that thread painting. So it would sit aside for a bit longer. And then I got to the stage where felt like my thread painting had improved so much that if I didn't actually finish it, it would be so noticeable from the first bits I did to the last bit. So I was like, no, I've got to actually do it. So I entered it in Quilt West, which was the first time I'd entered anything in a quilt show. And with that, you can enter things before you actually have it finished. Then I had a deadline, and I worked to deadlines, so I actually got it finished, sort of thing. So I went through, I thread painted the whole lot, and then I quilted it, sort of thing. And I did it in 2 separate stages, sort of thing. And, well, this is the quilt that it finished up at. So from something that you couldn't actually work out what it was, it ended up being like that. And it was actually allowed to sit, now hangs proudly in our hallway, sort of thing. So yes, that was the quilt that started everything. So yes, you can sort of places you can sort of see with the 1-inch squares, and other places I've just stitched so much over that I basically obliterated where it was and those things, and yeah, it looks reasonably realistic. Go on. So yeah, I did a few more. So again, that's just like another one I did reasonably early on, sort of thing of like forest theme, just in the southwest of WA, Borenet Forest. So my go-to white thing is I tend to do sun-dye backgrounds, fabric collage, and then I do a lot of stitching over. Sorry. Okay, so like I say, that's just another one from Borenet Forest. So, yeah. So then, people kept sort of saying, oh, are you going to start teaching and things like that, sort of thing. So I was sort of like, oh, I don't know about that sort of thing. I'm normally like a shy person, and I would never do anything like this. But people encouraged me, and I sort of thought, well, what the hell, we'll give that a go. So part of doing, not that one yet, the WACWA Accredited Teacher program is you have to teach a workshop And I was like, well, I'm certainly not going to, and just a one-day workshop, and I thought, it's the first attempt, I'm not going to try and do a thread painting one, because one day you're not going to get very far, and it's just not going to happen. So, I had attempted to get some things into Oz Quilt Network exhibitions, and I hadn't got very far. And somebody has sort of said, oh, it's because your fittings is too realistic, they don't like realistic, you need to have something with a bit more of a design process to it. So we've been up north, and the Kimberley, this is near Town Beach and Broome, and I ran it through an app, and it came up with all these squares sort of thing, and I thought, that's something I can work with, it's sort of put a bit of a design feature on. So that's when I made this quilt of the bow app. So when it was coming into time to do a workshop, I sort of thought, well, I could take that technique and modify it to make it for a one-day workshop, which is why I started doing the Banksias. So these are a couple of samples for the workshop I'll be doing in a couple of days' time. So those are just for the Banksia workshop. The Banksia has got some nice lines on, which works well for doing the this technique where you're sticking on your little squares and things like that. So I've got a couple of other ones we'll show you for the workshop. Okay, yeah, yeah, do that one. So following along for the same technique, you can expand it. I mean, the Banksias are great for a one-day workshop. It's achievable in a day. But you can follow the same technique and make it into a bigger thing and make it into a landscape. So this particular scene, like Verity sort of said, I've just come back from doing a couple of legs of the clip around the world yacht race. So I did the leg from Freo around to Airlie Beach. So, you know, in the roaring 40s sort of thing, and you're expecting nice, you know, big waves following behind and everything like that. Coming up to Tassie, we were stuck in a wind hole. You're on the Howl and you hit a sunrise like this. Absolutely glorious. Not great for racing, but still you've just got to take in the beauty of what it was. So I sort of thought, yeah, I've got to do a quilt to sort of show, yeah, this is actually the roaring 40s that I stuck. A wind hole coming into Tasmania, coming down below Tassie. We'll do the zebra. And like I sort of said, I hadn't come from a teaching background, so I sort of thought I did Shannon, her Scrappy Applique course to be a certified teacher sort of thing. So then I put my spin on her pattern sort of thing, and I made the zebra sort of thing. So yeah, that's again one of the workshops that we'll be doing sort of thing. So that was my spin, and because I thread paint a lot, when it comes to quilting things, I can't help but quilt things to death sort of thing. So, you know, the extra space, I sort of, unless it's quilted a lot, it doesn't seem right to me sort of thing. So that was that one. Okay, we'll do that. So then for teaching the thread painting, I sort of, yeah, just, they're all the two gunflowers. Yeah, I sort of thought doing a gunflower was a nice, small, achievable project to do, to learn the technique of thread painting. We have one day where we do the fabric collage, and you learn how I translate a photo into a collage sort of thing, and then the next day we go for thread painting. You can go through and do like transitions between the fabrics and learning the different techniques to blur it and sort of thing, and it's a nice small achievable project to do the gunflowers. I didn't have space to bring that many quilts over, as was my bag was overweight as it was sort of thing, but anyway, so I'll do the penguin. So we had a trip down to Antarctica a couple of years ago, which was the most amazing experience. The wildlife was absolutely incredible. We went to South Georgia as well. and you go on like Salisbury's Plain, and you've got 100,000 pairs of breeding penguins, sort of thing, of the king penguins. So I had done a couple of things for penguins, sort of thing. So yeah, that was that one sort of thing. And then I'll just do the sequence. Yeah. And this is another one that's sort of, I'm just going to be just a sample for other workshops I'm just going to start doing, sort of thing, where you do an under the sea feed. You can do a seahorse or a turtle or fish or things like that. And also then you can have some fun with embellishing, sort of thing, and make believe coral or corals or things like that. There's so much opportunity to have fun and do whatever you like. This other book was just a little bit of fun. I had it in Quilters West last year because I've been doing a lot of things about Antarctica, and when Trump put out his tariffs on and stuff like that, I sort of thought I've got to do something, sort of thing. So yes, and I've sort of seen Karen Khmer's Happy Villages quilts and sort of thought that looks like a fun thing to do, sort of thing. So I thought I could incorporate, make it into a penguin village and have it the penguins protesting against the things, just sort of thing. Something contemporary, something that was a bit of fun.
Don't take that one to America.
No.
You won't be allowed in.
I won't. Well, also we've been to Cuba, sort of thing, so no, I wouldn't be allowed in. And then the final one to finish on is another one from Antarctica. Yeah. Because when we were in Antarctica, we did the kayaking, sort of thing. So, you're kayaking around in the ice age, and this was the Urban Cove, sort of thing, and with the glaciers are carving, sort of thing. So you're paddling through the crunchy ice and things like that. And then there was this beautiful ice arch, and the leader, he went round the other side, sort of thing, so we could sort of see him through there. So that was just another stunning photo that we had that I had to make into a quilt. So. Yeah, so that's all the quilts I had space to bring, sort of. Like I say, I had a huge bag that I brought over, and it was sort of like, nothing else is going to fit in, so, but it was a taste of what I do, sort of thing.
I'd just like to thank Janine so much for doing the trunk show for us. And to all those lucky ladies who booked into her workshop over the next 4 days, well done you. Okay, thanks.